Good morning, students. Let's continue our chapter Animals, Food and More. In previous video tutorial, we have discussed some topics like herbivorous animals, carnivorous animals, omnivorous animals, and how do animals eat, and the last one is special parts for feeding. Okay, if you are having any doubt related to that video tutorial, you can get the link. It is given below in the description box. Okay. In this video tutorial, we will discuss about food chain, producers, consumers. How does a food chain work? So, a food chain. What is food chain first? Can you see the picture on the screen? What can you see here? Grass, deer, and lion picture. And it is what interrelated to each other. Okay, so first you should know how they are interrelated. What is food chain? A food chain shows how living things depends on each other for food. A plant that is called producers. What is producers? Producers are that kind of living things. They can make their own food. They can create their own food. Okay, so a plant is always the first level. It is what? Always the first level of the food chain, of any food chain. Look at the simple food chain you can see in the picture. Okay, in this food chain, deer eat the grass. Okay, so grass is eaten by deer. And what about lion? Lion eats deer. Okay, so deer is eaten by what? Lion. Chain means how the living things are interrelated to each other for their survival, for their food. Okay, let's take one more example of food chain. Here also you can see how the grasshopper eat plants and the frog eat grasshopper and the peacock eat frog. Okay, so this is also the example of food chain. Here also you can see that how they are interrelated to each other. Okay, so how the grasshopper depends on the plant and how the frog depends on the grasshopper and how the peacock is depend on the frog for their survival. Interdependence between plants and animals. This picture shows how the plants and animals are depend on each other. Animals and plants depend on each other in many ways. Animals get food from the plants. Okay, and when animals breathe, they give out carbon dioxide. What animal breathe out? What? Carbon dioxide. And that carbon dioxide is used by the plant to make their food. Okay, when animal breathe, they give out carbon dioxide and plant use that carbon dioxide to make the food. That we already have discussed. Okay, when the plant make the food, they give out oxygen in air. What they give? By photosynthesis, they give oxygen in air, and that oxygen animal uses for breathing. Trees are home to animals and birds. Trees are also home for animals and birds. This shows the interdependency between plants and animals. How both plants and animals are depend on each other. Okay, so next come to the next module. Now Can you see this picture on the screen? Every living things need energy in order to live. Every living beings, they need energy to live. They need energy to grow, to survive. Okay? Every time you can see animals, so every time they do something like jumping, running, so many activities animals do, and what they required for doing, for that kind of thing, they need energy. They uses energy for jumping, for running, for going from here to there, there to here, means from one place to another place. Means animals get energy from food they eat. Okay, and all the living things, they get energy from their foods. Okay, so plants uses sunlight, water, and many nutrients they get from the soil, and they make their food with the help of the process that is called photosynthesis. Energy is necessary for all the living beings for growth. Okay, a food chain shows how living things get food and how nutrients and energy are passed from creature to creature. Okay, food chain begins with the plant life. It is the first level of food chain. Some animals eat plants, some animals eat animals and other animals. Okay, so a simple food chain you can see which is given here. So it is start with the grass eaten by the rabbit, and the rabbit eaten by the foxes. Okay, this is also the example of food chain, how they are dependent. Okay, how the grass is eaten by the rabbit and how the rabbit is eaten by the foxes. Okay, so all the living beings, they depend on each other for their food, for getting energy, for their survival. Okay, so the next is, how does a food chain work? Means, okay, tell me now, why do we need to eat? Why eating is required? Besides feeling bored or hungry, we eat food. Why? Because we need energy to grow. We need energy to move from one place to another place. We need energy to survive. This is true for all the living beings. Okay, this is true for all the living beings, like for this also, for this, for grasshopper also, for all the living beings. This is very important, means energy is a very important part. Energy flows between living things when they eat. Okay, so each animals is linked in a food chain. You can see here. Okay, now tell me one term that I have told you, producer. Producer is what? Producers are that kind of living beings, they can make their own food. That's why they are called producers. As for example, plants. Okay, as for example, plants are what? Producers. Why plants called producers? Because plants can make their own food. But what about animal? Can animal make their own food? No. Animals are totally depend on the surrounding. They are totally depend on the plants, on the other animals. So what animals are called? They are called consumers. Okay. So what are producer? Plants are known as producers. Why? Because they produce their own food. For this particular food chain, the grass is the producer. Why? Because grass can make their own food. Okay, and what about the other animal like grasshopper, mouse and owl? They are consumers. Animals are consumers. Why? Because they cannot create their own food. Their food can be both animals or the plants. You can see here the grasshopper, mouse and owl all are what? Consumers. This all means grasshopper, mouse and owl, they are what? Consumers. Okay, and what are plants? They are producers. Okay, understood? So these two terms are very important. What are the two terms? First is producers and second is consumers. Okay, you can write in your notebook the defined part by yourself. I'm telling you again, what are producers? Like plants are producers. Why? Because plants can make their own food. They can create their food by themselves, by own. Okay, and what about animals? Animals are consumers because animals cannot make their own food. They are depend on the plants as well as the other animals. I hope that you have understood today's module. I'll be giving you one worksheet related to the module. You need to solve the worksheet and you can share your answer solution of the worksheet in my personal window. Okay students, till then take care. Bye bye.